Hey there, everyone. Welcome to this morning's edition of the MPC Markets Morning Call. Apologies, we're a little bit late, but we are very much under the pump here at the moment. Obviously, very good night. AI, AI hopes were very much pumped up by Microsoft's Azure cloud growth. I mean, we're up around about 8% yesterday. They ended up around about 15%, but we're up anywhere near sort of 20 odd percent at one stage, and yeah, it's really put the put the wind back in the sails of the chip stock investors, and all that hot money flooding back in. As you can see, Micron, AMD up, and Micron and SK Hynix were up 17 odd percent essentially overnight. You've got Applied Materials, Lam Research was up 12 or something, but was already up a little bit. Odd good earnings yesterday. Meta didn't survive it because everyone's a little bit concerned about he's clutching at too many things in very competitive markets, and you probably should just focus on one thing. I think was the general comment. Apple was down 1.4% and then fell a further 5% in the aftermarket on disappointing earnings as well. I'm probably I've been super busy this morning, so I don't have a huge amount of detail for you. I will fill it in the podcast, Bulls versus Bears this afternoon, and give a little bit of an update. We're still in strong territory despite the Nasdaq getting back a little bit higher, a fair bit higher overnight. But I mean, look, we're up around about 0.5% across the board in the US for the week. This move seems it's a little bit surprising, but the right stocks rallied, and Meta's down, Apple's down after the bell. Amazon was, I believe Amazon was up around about sort of 6 to 8% as well. Let me just have a quick check of that. Well, actually up 9. It was up 3% overnight and then up another 9. So, the beliefs really come back into that AI theme, and that's obviously sent things soaring. So that's the biggest rise in Microsoft since 2008, something like 640 billion market cap. You got to put it into context though. They've been absolutely hammered this year under the SaaS apocalypse, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But because they're not just if someone was going to take out Microsoft Word and Excel by now, they would have done it by now. Google's had a shot. Everyone's had a shot. It hasn't happened. It's never going to happen. So, the SaaS apocalypse doesn't really apply considering what's going on. So, we had a few. AXT was up 29. They smashed it. Amazon was up 8.8. Roblox was down 13%. Week bookings guide. Western Union was down 8. That makes a hell of a lot of sense. Reddit was down 6. Had a rev beat, and a solid guide, but no real AI disclosures. So GoDaddy was down 6%. They beat a little bit. Coinbase, which they missed on both lines, down 5%. But maybe prediction markets kind of taking away a little bit from them. I think they're doing their own, but trading volumes are pretty soft, which is a bit weird considering trading volumes have been really pumping everywhere else. Apple beat on EPS. Greater China missed and the tariff refund went off. So they were down 4%. But look, I couldn't really get into the weeds too much on these this morning. We've got a deal going on with the memory chip stocks, SK Hynix and Micron at the moment, which is we've been inundated with. So unfortunately, a little bit behind, but the SPY was up 99 points, around about just above 9,000. We got Bank of Japan today, China PMIs, inflation in Europe, Exxon Chevron earnings tonight, RBA rate decisions next week, and I will double check that because I screwed it up last time. And we've got payrolls next Friday as well, which will be massive. And I think we got Fortescue this morning. I haven't been able to get a handle on that either. And then US Iran just continues basically to be a bit of a disaster. I don't look crude for whatever reason. Apparently they're escorting quite a few ships through, but that's costing the US an absolute fortune. I just don't, but the Energy Secretary did say yesterday that don't expect any more releases of US oil reserves. I did notice on the way to work this morning, particularly in Sydney, we got diesel back nearly at $3.50 in some places, and petrol starting to rise again. I think that's going to, that's largely going to end up heading a fair bit higher, and it's going to affect the consumer. So, but I'm just not going to bother quoting what they're saying about traffic in Hormuz, because people watching the ships go through are saying the real number, and then but it doesn't seem to matter to markets, because Trump or one of Trump's cronies comes out and says that we're at 3/4 capacity, which is just crap. So oil's just doing its thing based on what the Americans keep announcing and keep just jamming lies down people's throats, and then ignoring the stats. So until those pump prices get back to, the next figure will be $5 a gallon over there, which it could get to in the next week or so. No one's going to pay any attention, because they think broadly the Americans being polled, they hate the war, and most of them think it's over. So, but yeah, it is what it is. We'll see what happens this weekend, but we've had a 2-day break, and we're back into full-on wars, and both straits are closed. So I don't know how the market seems to not care, but these things happen at times. Payrolls next Friday, as I said. RBA rate decision won't be on Wednesday; it'll be on Tuesday if it's on. SpaceX earnings next week. That could be pretty bad for the Nasdaq, I would imagine, if they miss. And then on the 6th of Thursday, it's the largest release out of escrow from an IPO in dollar value in history in SpaceX. So that's not going to, I mean, it'll be usually those situations, and I've been in trading rooms, my life, it's every man for himself. We do have AMD. No one's going to care about Berkshire Hathaway. All their holders T-bills these days. And what else? We got REA next week, which will kick off Aussie earnings season, actually. So this calendar is going to be a fair bit fuller as of the following week. But tune into Bulls versus Bears this afternoon. I'll catch you up on some of the earnings stuff and do my job properly, as opposed to this morning. And yeah, we'll. And I'll have to come up with a topic from between now and then. Feedback welcome for those regular listeners out there. Just chuck us an email if you want us to cover anything. I'll speak to you guys on Monday, or catch you on the podcast this afternoon.